Welcome along to the series that, thanks to Quinton down in the comments, we're going to be calling Sub-Zero 2.0. We're starting out in France. We've only been gone half a season, and Toulouse are already a mid-table team, but we are here to find out what's been going on at Tromsdalen. We took over with the club in the relegation zone. We finished that season. We're going to show you how we performed, plus we're going to welcome our new youth intake and check out some surprising transfers that have come into the club. So here's the table at the end of the season then. We took over when we were 15th. We've recovered. We finished 9th, long way off the European places, but comfortably ahead of relegation. And we got plenty of wins during our time in charge. We took over just after the defeat to Molde in the Cup. We played a couple of friendlies, trying to embed our tactical style a little bit, and we picked up plenty of wins before the end of the season. We managed to beat Bran in our first game in charge. We then got further wins against Rosenborg, a 3-0 win against them. Showed that we were definitely on the right track. We beat Start, we beat Sarpsborg, and then we managed to beat Haugesund, Molde, Fredrikstad and Kristiansund, all before the end of the season, giving us that 9th place finish in the league. However, this season we want to go far better. We need to cut out the silly defeats, and if we're going to do so, it's going to be the new transfers that are going to help lead this club to what we're going to hope is a European finish. Before we check in on those transfers, we've had a new batch of youth intake players. Let's see the best of them. So as part of our move over from Toulouse, we were able to negotiate the departure of the old head of youth development because he was not good, and we brought in our own to replace him. His name is Sune Jensen. He's a Dane with a fairly professional personality, some good attributes, and also some tactical styles that we really quite like. I don't think he will have influenced the new youth intake that much. He was only there for about 4 or 5 months before they came through. I think there's a bit of a time lag associated with these things. And is this a great crop of youngsters? It's certainly not a bad one. We weren't promised a golden generation, but we've got some players that I think will be usable. So let's start off with Vegard Jorgensen, who is rated as the player that's come through with potentially a 5-star potential ability. He's a fairly professional personality, so already we're on board with that. He could be a winger, but I think perhaps he's going to be more of a full-back, although we're going to have to drastically improve that marking and positioning. Maybe he won't be quick enough to be a winger, so full-back might be his best shot. With a leadership of 1, he's certainly not going to be captain material, but he is typical Norwegian youth intake with that teamwork and that work rate. That is what we became accustomed to during our first spell in charge. The player that was highlighted by the head of youth development as the one to watch when we got the youth report a good 4 or 5 months before they came through was Kimmo Sikala, a Finnish winger, fairly sporting, is a bit of a meh kind of personality. He's going to have to get a little bit quicker, I think, if he's going to be a winger as well. Certainly his mental attributes are not too pretty, but he's got 5-star potential ability as well. I'm not sure whether he's ever going to be good enough to play Premier Division football, but at 15 years old, it's pretty hard to predict. It's all about how they train over the next 2 years. But perhaps the player who I think might have the best shot of going on and playing for the first team is one that's only rated as maybe having 3 or 4 stars worth of potential ability, and that is Logan Albano. I like his personality. It means he should train well, and whilst maybe he doesn't have stunning attributes in any area, the amount of them that are 7, 8s and 9s that could all get into double figures suggests that, well, he looks the most rounded of the players, and with that personality, I think young Logan might be the one that develops into a player that could have an impact on the first team in a couple of years' time. You'll see he's another player that could go out there and play on the wing, but maybe in the centre of the park he might be a little bit more used to us. So those are the youth players that are coming through. But unlike our previous tenure at Tromsdalen, there's not as much rush to get them straight into the first team. We can give them some under-19 football first and maybe loan them out to help their development, because we've got some players that we've recruited for our first team that I hope means that the squad is already quite strong. So when we took over at Tromsdalen, there was only £1 million in the bank, but they'd given us a transfer budget of £14 million. So they were quite happy to risk the club's future running a transfer deficit to try and improve the squad. I think we have improved the squad, but we've done so without bankrupting the club in the process. We've actually got more money in the bank balance than when we first took over, and you'll see our transfer budget remains pretty healthy. Let's introduce you to some of the players that we've bought, starting with some of our French players, because we did say, as well as re-signing players that might have been in the Tromsdalen Academy, we're also going to allow ourselves to sign players that played with us for Toulouse. Now, don't get excited about the first of those. This is Ili Reynaud, who played for us in Ligue 2 when we first took over at Toulouse. He played a season, threw a hissy fit, and then demanded a transfer, and we flogged him. But we thought he might be quite good for the level that we're playing at with Tromsdalen, and Reynaud has a driven personality, as you might expect. Unfortunately, he got to the end of the season and he threw a hissy fit again. So whether he will stay at the club for the long term, I'm not sure. But if we do decide to sell him, I think we'll make a healthy little profit, because we only signed him for about £300,000. However, he's not the only player we raided Toulouse for. Our next recruit from France was Alban Delmar, who played 10 games for Toulouse last season in Liga, as well as playing in the French Cup final and playing a Champions League game as well. He came in for about £300,000. He's a left back or a centre half. Great personality, good all-round attributes. Young enough that I think he could still develop a little bit more as well. He gives us cover, he gives us versatility. And for this season, I'm thinking he's going to be our first choice left back. We also managed to bring in a couple of players on loan from Toulouse as well. The first of those is Abdoulaye Lakassi, a centre-half Moroccan international, 6'5", dominant in the air, valued at 2.9 million a player. I was pretty happy to get hold of. He came through the Toulouse Academy when we were in Ligue 2. He was a key part of our promotion season, didn't get quite as much game time in Ligue 1, but was certainly a player that's going to be useful for us now that we've bought him in on loan. And he came in for 18 months, so we've got him for the whole of next season as well. But we've also managed to secure a much needed goalkeeper. So as soon as we arrived at Tromsdalen, it was obvious that the goalkeeping position was the one that needed upgrading the most. We went straight to Toulouse and had offers accepted and contracts agreed for both of their backup keepers, but they both decided that their futures lay elsewhere. Jan Otto decided to stay in France and sign for Rennes, and Isaiah Monnier decided to head over to Spain to sign for Vallecano. However, he's not got a lot of game time while he's been out there. They've put him on the loan list. We've been able to bring him in this season, and I think this is going to be another important signing for us. He wasn't a million miles away from being the first choice keeper at Toulouse. It was only the fact that we bought in Nicolas from PSG and he was valued at 20 million that meant that Monnier didn't get more game time. Monnier came through the PSG Academy himself, so he comes from good stock and he is going to be our first choice keeper for this season. However, we've also managed to bring in a few of our old Tromsdalen Youth Academy players as well. So the first of them is another loan signing, and it's a defender in Trond Agne Bratton who was playing out in Belgium for Charleroi, wasn't getting as much game time as he wanted, and they put him on the loan list, and we were in there like a ferret up a drain pipe. 6'4", he can play at the back with Lakassi, and we're going to be pretty dominant in the air. Another really good personality. He's a loan signing, but maybe could even be the captain for the season. He came in on an 18-month deal, so he's paid half a season for us already, but we've got him on loan for the next campaign as well. We've also got some more of our old boys that we've brought back in permanently. So for £1.8 million, we've managed to sign Christian Berntsen. He's a fairly ambitious central midfielder or right back. When he first came through the Tromsdalen Academy, he was just a central midfielder. We converted him into a right back. In midfield, I think is where he might be of most use for us, perhaps as a box-to-box player. Whilst at Bode Glimt, he picked up 4 international caps. And it says at 23 years old, he might not even have maxed out his ability. So, if we can give him the right training with the right coaches and the right facilities, we might even see a little attribute bump here. He looks pretty good physically. Some of those mentals are decent. And I think he's going to be technically just about good enough to help us keep the ball in midfield. But there's more. Because the man we spent the most money on was bringing Jonas Skogvand Pedersen back from Rosenborg. He's another one with a great personality. We were producing some pretty determined individuals back in the day at Tromsdalen. He's come in for the best part of £3 million. But don't worry, this has all been offset by some of the transfers of players that didn't come through the Tromsdalen Academy that we've managed to ship out. He can now play across the attacking midfield positions. When he signed, he asked if he could be a pressing forward, but maybe with finishing of 9 that wouldn't be the optimum use of his talents. But that teamwork and work rate certainly makes him an attractive option as a striker if we need him. But his physicality and his flair and his dribbling mean that I think he's going to be an inside forward for us, probably over on the right wing, cutting in onto his left foot, where he has already shown last season that he can hit the back of the net. He came in and scored 5 goals for us during the run-in. So we've reunited the Skogs at the heart of our Tromsdalen team. But we've also managed to get 2 more players in on loan that I was genuinely delighted with. So one of them is an absolute dream of a loan signing. We only got him in this week. He's come in from Toulouse. He fell out with them because they wouldn't offer him a new contract. So we swooped in there and bought Morten Størvold back to the club that produced him. He's valued at £5.5 million. He's only just arrived but already played a friendly and he got an assist in it. And potentially playing as a Mazzala in a midfield 3 for us. I think Størvold is going to be a superb player in the centre of the park. Look at some of these mental attributes, the teamwork, the vision, the work rate. The off the ball is incredible. His decision making is good. He could fill in and be a playmaker if we needed him to. He could go over there and play on the right hand side instead of Skogvang Pedersen, cutting in on his left if we needed him to. His first touch is good. He's going to score with some long shots. His passing is great as well. Could not have been more excited to bring Morten Størvold in. However, would be a shame not to reunite him with his best mate, wouldn't it? So the final piece of the jigsaw is Espen Larsen Pleam. How have we got him? I'm not entirely sure. When we left Toulouse, after about 2 months, they put him on the loan list and we swooped. We bought him in for 18 months. So he's already played half a season for us and has scored plenty of goals. But we've got him for the entirety of this campaign as well. Remember, this is the guy who was the top scorer in last season's Champions League. We've tempted him back to the Arctic Circle. Hopefully, he's going to score the goals that are going to mean that Tromsdalen can finish in a top 3 league position and qualify for Europe. He's very quick. He's a great finisher. He's got good dribbling and some great mental attributes as well. I could not be more delighted to bring in Espen Larsen Pleam. So I think we've managed to assemble a cast of some of the best talents that Tromsdalen have produced over the last 10 years. We're going to have Bratton in defence, Størvold in midfield. We've reunited the Skogs. We're also going to have Berntsen playing for us and Espen Larsen Pleam leading the line. I'm excited about what this season's going to hold for Tromsdalen, but we've also got some new Sub-Zero heroes to introduce you to who I think might make their own impact. So Tromsdalen have shown no let-up in their ability to produce good young players whilst we've been away. We showed you Ole Christian Bratton at the end of the last episode. He looks like a good central midfielder. And Roy the Boy Henriksen looks at 18 years old like he could go on and develop into a top talent, and we've already rejected bids from Fiorentina and Ajax for him. But the talent pool doesn't stop there. This is Christian Pettersson, just turned 17. He's like a young Espen Larsen Pleam. He's quick, great finisher, with a fairly professional personality. I don't think we've finished his development yet. Someone who's slightly older, but played very well in the first team last season, is Marcus the Judge Reinhold. It lists him as a striker. We played him as a winger, and he scored 7 goals for us during the run-in, so he could be getting lots of game time this season. We've got more talent in the team, though. This is Tor the Ting, who mentally looks absolutely superb. Maybe he's not going to be quick enough to play in his desired position as winger. We're trying to retrain him as an attacking right back. His marking and his positioning suggests that he might be able to play there. We just need to improve his tackling a little bit. But given that his tackling is as high as his crossing, I think he'll be just as good as a right back as he might have been as a winger. But we've got more. This is Stein Kirkvold, who's 19 years old, another player we've had to fend off a lot of interest in. Great passer, great vision, pretty decent in the air as well as a playmaker in the midfield. Kirkvold looks like another strong player, but I think the gem in Tromsdalen's youth programme is probably the Arctic Tiger, Ara Tigerson, who has an ambitious personality, physically looks superb for a central defender, is left-footed to boot, is aggressive and brave, and has some pretty good technical attributes. He can step up into midfield if we need the Tiger to be there as well. And at 17 years old, again, I think the Tiger is destined to go and play in one of the top 5 leagues around Europe. So this is what we've got to look forward to in our first full season back in charge of Tromsdalen. We've got new academy players that have just joined the club. We've got great prospects that have been developing over the last couple of years to carry on supporting. And we've also brought in some of our favourites. We're going to have a good season at this club. We're going to need European football to bring in the finances we need to support this kind of squad. But we've got to go into the season with confidence, because if we could finish in the top 3 places, we are well on our way to producing the next batch of Sub-Zero Heroes 2.0.